Alright, here's a video on how to use a multimeter to measure voltage. I'm going to first make sure that our black probe is connected into the common, and then our red probe is connected into the volt ohm meter. And once we do that, since we're going to be measuring DC voltage, I'm going to turn the dial to the reading voltage. Now, voltage is always the potential between two different points. So if over on the breadboard, you can see I've got my common, or my reference voltage through the top line, and I've got my positive voltage, or the point with the highest potential, going through the top rail. So if I measure, so if I measure from the source, if I measure between here and here, I should get the voltage of roughly 10 volts. And if I go to the breadboard and I measure between these 2 points, which is the highest point in the circuit and the lowest point in the circuit, I should also get the same voltage. Now, voltage is always measured within reference of a point, but it's between either the ground and the voltage at a point in the circuit, or it's between two different points. You never have voltage at a point. You have voltage at a point with reference to another point. So in this case, our common, or our ground, is going to be all the way on the left or the right side of the circuit. And so I can measure voltage at different points throughout this in reference to the ground. So here at this node, the voltage is 4.75 volts. And at this point, it's 5.18 volts. And at this point, it's 5.26 volts. And at that point, it's 10 volts. Now I can also measure, I don't have to measure with reference to ground, I can measure the voltage across these two resistors. So this is a basic circuit. I've got a series of resistors. These two are in parallel to each other, these two are in parallel to each other, and then all of these resistors are in series. So if I measure the voltage from this point to this point, so from ground, 4.75 volts. And if I measure the voltage across these resistors, 0.43 volts, and I measure the voltage across these resistors, basically about 0.08 volts, and I measure the voltage difference across this point, 4.74 volts. The entirety should add up, since I'm measuring the voltage across this resistor, this pair of resistors, this pair of resistors, and this resistor. Now it should add up to 10 volts. Now I can, if I wanted to, I can make, if I'm measuring, let's say I want to measure the voltage with reference to this point. Now, obviously this potential, the black probe is now at the highest, the voltage with the highest potential. So if I make that my reference, all of the voltages will be negative. So that's negative 4.74. Again, it's a total of negative 4.82. And this is going to be a negative, if I can get that, negative 5.2. And this should be negative 10. So it's not like the voltage is going backwards. It's just how I'm measuring it, what I'm calling my reference. So if my highest electrical potential is my reference voltage, everything is going to have a lower potential voltage. So every other point throughout the circuit is going to read negative. Now, if you don't want to have this as your reference, in other words, if you don't want to have negative voltage, then you just, measure correctly. So we want to measure our red probe to the highest potential on the circuit, and our black to either a common or some other point.